Good day, everyone. Today we are going to discuss the last axiom of Hilbert, and this is the axiom of parallelism. To start, the parallel postulate problem. So, we are going to present one of the most historically significant problems in mathematics, the 2000 years plus struggle with Euclid's parallel postulate that ultimately led to revolutionary discoveries about the nature of geometric space. Okay, so just to recall, there are we have Euclid's the fifth postulate. So um, the Euclid's fifth postulate we have here: if a line falling on two lines makes the interior angles on the same slide less than two right angles, the two lines, if produced indefinitely, meet on that side. Okay, so we have there are a few lines that we are going to um what do you call it, break down. Okay, let's have this line. Okay, so um you have okay a line falling on two lines. So technically, this statement is the transversal intersecting two other lines. Okay, so and then you have interior angles on the same side. So the two angles between the parallel lines on one side of transversal. Then less than two right angles, meaning the sum is less than 180 degrees. And then if produced indefinitely, so yeah, it implies that we can, if the lines are um, extended indefinitely in both direction, and then you have meet on that side. So the lines will intersect on the side where angles will the angle sum to less than 180 degrees. Okay, so if you are going to visualize, you have two lines. Okay, let's say line 1 and line 2, and then intersected by transversal. So um if you have the interior angles, okay, on the same side, then if if the sum of those two angles is less than 180, then the two lines, the line 1 and line 2, must meet on that side. And then if the sum is equal to 180 degrees, then the lines are parallel. Okay. So, okay. Uh, by the way, let's go back to the postulate of Euclid. Now, why this postulate seem different from the other postulates? So, if you can still recall with the other what to call this one postulates, let's say the first postulate, any two points can be connected by a straight line. So the first postulate is what you call this one. It's a simple and obvious. And then postulate two, any finite straight line can be extended. So that is very clear and intuitive. And then postulate three, a circle can be drawn with any center and radius. So this postulate is straightforward. And then postulate 4, all right angles are equal. So this is technically immediate and very self-evident. However, this fifth postulate is complex, if you can if you can notice. So this is a complex, and then conditional statements are about infinite extension. So the complexity here is there is something problem in the complexity. So the Euclid's first four postulates are simple, immediate assertions. The fifth postulate is a complex logical statement involving infinity and conditional reasoning. So this difference troubles the mathematicians for over 2,000 years. Okay, so the what I call this one, we have the 2,000 years plus struggle. So the question here, okay, is technically is the mathematicians on the these 2,000 years before, okay, they are actually wondering is if the fifth postulate is really independent of the first four. So could it be proven as a theorem rather than assumed as an axiom? So at some ways, they are thinking, why did Euclid need such a complex statement when the others were very simple? So somehow they have an issue. So if the parallel postulate could be proven from simpler axioms, then the geometry would have a clearer foundation. If not, then our understanding of space itself depend on the complex assumption. So if we can still what we call this one recall with our previous discussion, there are many attempts to prove the postulate. So we have the Proclus on around 5th century, okay, in which Proclus attempted the proof using motion, and then we have the Al-Haytham in 11th century. They use the actually Al-Haytham use properties of quadrilateral. And then in around 13th century, uh, Nasser then Al-Tusi, okay, developed the Tusi couple approach. And then you have Giovanni Saccheri, okay, use the reductio ad absurdum method. And then you have Johann Lambert, okay, in which studied the Lambert quadrilaterals. However, there is a pattern in failed attempts. So they assumed other properties equivalent to the parallel postulate, and then they use intuitive notions that weren't rigorously justified. Okay, and then they made subtle circular reasoning errors. So they couldn't escape using parallel postulate equivalent assumptions. So in 19th century, okay, you have there the discovery the non-Euclidean geometries exist where this postulate fails. Okay, and then we have here the Hilbert's approach, make the choice explicit with a single clean axiom. Okay, so we have here um, Hilbert's approach, make the choice explicit with a single clean axiom. So um, there is now the revelation that the fifth postulate is actually independent from the previous postulates. So um, we have there um, you have there the um, Janos Bolyai, okay, in 1802 to 1860. Okay, they are. He is one of the key discoverers that the fifth postulate is independent from the other four. And then we have Nikolai Lobachevsky. Okay, and then you have Carl Friedrich Gauss. So they are the key discoverers of the fifth postulate as independent postulate. So they discovered that the parallel postulate is indeed independent. You can create consistent logical geometries where the parallel postulate fails. So these non-Euclidean geometries are just mathematically valid as Euclid's geometry. Okay, so we have here the method of discovery. So the first one is we have the reductio ad absurdum approach. So um, if you can still recall now with the RAA, we assume the parallel postulate is false and then um, develop the logical consequences of this assumption and then look for contradictions that would prove the assumption wrong. Okay. Another what we call this one method is the hyperbolic geometry. Okay. So by the way, and in the discovery, no, um, in the RAA, there is no contradiction arise. Instead, a new consistent geometry emerges. Okay, yun yung they discover. Okay, another is this hyperbolic geometry. Okay, so through any external point, infinitely many parallels to a given line. So you have there the triangle angle sums less than 180 degrees, no similar triangles on different sizes, and the area formula, including hyperbolic functions. Okay, so after 2,000 years plus of failed attempts to prove the parallel postulate, mathematicians realized the problem wasn't with their proof, it was their assumption that the postulate must be provable. So Hilbert's contribution was to make this choice explicit and clean. So instead of Euclid's complex conditional statement, Hilbert provide a simple, clear axiom that captures exactly what we're chosen when we decide what kind of geometric space we want to work with. Okay, so this captures one of the mathematics' great intellectual adventures. So the century-long quest that ultimately revealed the optional nature of one of the geometry's most fundamental assumption. Okay, so here is the Hilbert's parallel axiom. So for every line L and every point P not lying on L, there is at most one line M through P such that M is parallel to L. So this is the most consequential single axiom in all geometry. One that determines whether we inhabit flat Euclidean space or curved non-Euclidean space with profound implications of mathematics. We have the physics and our understanding of reality itself. Okay, so if we are going to dissect, okay, the Hilbert's action statement, so you have here for every line L and every point P, not lying on L. So this is a universal setup. So it applies to any line and any external point. So, so in other words, this is a standard configuration. So the classic parallel postulate scenario and no other special restrictions or no special restrictions. So works in any geometric context. And then you have here, there is at most one line M through P such that M is parallel to L. So take note here, at most one. Okay. So it's either zero parallel lines or exactly one parallel line. So somehow, um, if we are going to compare it to Euclid, okay, Euclid claimed exactly one. However, Hilbert allows zero. So there is now precision. So this Hilbert's parallel axiom uses careful logical language to avoid assumptions. Okay, so um, in in other words, okay, weaker than Euclid's postulate. So this is the key insight. So Euclid fifth postulate or the equivalent form. Um, let me see. Okay, through a point not on the line, there is exactly one line parallel to the given line. Okay, so in the version of Hilbert, okay, through a point not on a line, there is at most one line parallel to the given line. Okay, so in this case, what they call this one, there is a crucial difference. So Euclid assumes exactly one parallel line always exists. However, Hilbert only rules out multiple parallels. So he allows the possibility that no parallel exists through a given point. So this seemingly small change open up entirely new geometries like the one that I've mentioned before that you have there, the hyperbolic in which the parallel lines meet. Okay. So what this allows, okay, so there are possibilities, okay, geometric possibilities because of this Hilbert's parallel axiom. So you have here Euclidean geometry, the exactly one parallel, which is this is called the standard case. So you have there uh, through point P exactly one line parallel to line L. So this is actually results in flat infinite geometry. So this Euclidean geometry is very familiar to us because this is the geometry that is introduced to us when we were in our basic education. So we have the high school and the elementary. So the high school geometry is actually Euclidean geometry. So parallel lines never meeting. And then from this axiom, we have triangle angle sum, which is equal to 180 degrees. Okay, so we have this concept is can be applied to architecture and engineering with human scales. So there is map projections for small regions, and of course other classical physics and mechanics. Okay. Another is you have the hyperbolic geometry, so zero parallel possible. Okay. So um take note, through point P, eventually through point P no lines parallel to line L. So all lines through P eventually intersect line L. So the result is in curve. Okay. So there is a saddle shape, okay, geometry. So the if that would be the case, the triangle uh, angle sum is less than 180 degrees. So this discovered independently by Boullier and Lobachevsky in the 1820s. Okay, so for over 2,000 years, mathematicians tried to prove Euclid's parallel postulate from the other axioms. So instead, they discovered it was optional. So you can have consistent geometry without this, what you call this one, the Euclidean geometry. Yung they will not intersect. Take note that Euclidean geometry, the parallel lines do not intersect. However, in the hyperbolic geometry, they intersect. Okay. Another, you have here Hilbert's axiom, what do you call this one? Rules out uh, elliptic geometry. So more than one parallel. So what's excluded? Okay. So more than one parallel line through point P. So this would correspond to spherical type geometry. So the triangle angle sums greater than 180 degrees. So why Hilbert exclude this? So elliptic geometry requires modifying other axioms, particularly incidence axioms. So Hilbert wanted to isolate the parallel postulates effect. So elliptic geometry needs separate treatment. Okay. So significance. This single axiom determines which geometry we're studying. Okay. So whether what to call this one, whether space is flat or curved, so we can choose, okay, if it is a flat or a curve. So how we by that we can have we can imagine how the triangle behaves, and then whether similar triangle exists, okay, because if it is in the curve, no similar triangles exist. So the nature of the area and the distance is also different from the flat and the hyperbolic. So the structure of the entire geometry universe depends on the kind of geometry that you are going to identify. So whether it is Euclidean geometry or hyperbolic geometry. Okay. So um, what would be the implications? So mathematics isn't just about discovering the truth. It's about exploring possibilities. So this is different from the other philosophical or other philosophies. So different action choices, um, different action choices create different but equally valid mathematical worlds. So the physical space becomes an empirical question, not a mathematical certainty. Okay, so we have consequences and applications. So um, there is profound mathematical and practical consequences of a single action choice. So showing how the parallel postulate determines fundamental properties of geometric space and enables modern technological applications. So we have here with parallel axiom, okay, we can prove the sum of angles in a triangle, okay, is equal to 180 degrees. So um, this is famous. Um, it's the result. Okay. Um, we cannot we cannot prove the sum is equal to 180 degrees without the parallel postulate. So this um, statement, sum of angles in triangles equals 180 degrees. So this requires the existence of parallel lines to establish angle relationship. So if you can still remember that you have there in the parallel postulate, so you have there the if you have two lines and then been cut by the transversal, okay, the angles, okay, in the same side should be what we call this one equal to 180 degrees, and that's the basis for the angles angle sum of the interior triangles. Okay, so this forms a foundation for many other geometric theorems. So um, actually, you can have the um, if you are going to demonstrate, um, you can um, you can draw triangle. Let's say you have triangle ABC, and then you are going to mark um, the angles alpha, beta, and gamma. Okay, at the vertices A, B, and C. So uh, we can show parallel lines to vertex A. So this demonstrates how alternate interior angles lead to the alpha plus gamma plus beta, which is equal to 180 degrees. So in other words, this statement fails without parallel lines. Another, we have the Pythagorean theorem. So Pythagorean theorem requires Euclidean geometry. So the Pythagorean theorem depends on the properties of similar triangles. And it's not just only similar triangles. The area relationships assume flat geometry. Okay, so the Euclidean theorem underlines distance calculation in coordinate geometry. So it's not just only the coordinate geometry. So engineering measurements also are what we call this one, the applications of the Pythagorean theorem. And aside from that, we do have also the GPS calculations. Okay. So the GPS calculation is valid only in flat Euclidean space. Okay. Another, we have the similar triangles exist. So triangles with the same angles but different sizes. This is what we are meant with similar triangles. So this requires a parallel postulate to establish angle similarity. And the parallel postulate also is the foundation for scaling, proportions, and trigonometry. So, what would be the what you call this one? The practical importance of similar triangles. So we have the map scaling and proportional reasoning. Okay, we do also have engineering blueprints and architectural drawings. And aside from that, we do also have the photography and optic calculations. Okay. Aside from the similar triangles, we do also have the area formulas for polygons. So we do have standard area formulas. For example, if you're going to calculate the area for a triangle, so you have 1/2 times base times height. For rectangle, you have length times width, and for the circle, you have pi r squared. So these formulas, okay, and even other formulas, okay, there is dependency on Euclidean geometry. So these familiar formulas assume flat geometry. So in curved surfaces, the similar triangles and circles would have different area relationship. Okay, so these are um, the consequences and the applications with the parallel axiom. Okay, so how about without parallel axioms? Okay, so yung what you call the parallel lines met. Okay, so the sum of angles in triangle is not equal to 180 degrees. So this is technically hyperbolic geometry. So this I've already what you call this one mentioned this one and discussed this one in the previous presentations. So the triangle angle sum is technically uh, less than 180 degrees for without parallel axioms. So the defect, angle defect measures curvature. So this is a spherical geometry. So not Hilbert's system, but it is relevant. Um, Aside from we can have triangle angle sum less than 180 degrees, we can also illustrate triangle angle sum greater than 180 degrees. Okay, example for this is the triangle with degree 90 with triangles with three 90 degrees angles on sphere surface. So, ang mangyayari, you have greater than 180 degrees. Okay. Another is no similar triangles, of course, except for congruent ones. So, similarity problem would be one of the consequences for without the parallel axiom. Okay. Yung spherical. Okay. Spherical geometry. So, in hyperbolic geometry, triangles with the same angles must have the same side length. So, no scaling without changing angles. So, this eliminates familiar proportional reasoning. So, the application, um, this means no scale models work the same way. So, a 1 is to 100 architectural model in hyperbolic space wouldn't preserve angular relationship so with the full size building. Okay. Another is we have different distance and area formulas. So distance formulas involve hyperbolic functions. So the area grows exponentially with the radius in a hyperbolic plane. So, in other words, the circumference of circles grows exponentially with radius. So, um, and the what do you call this one? Prominent application of the without the parallel axiom is actually the general relativity of Einstein. So Einstein's curved space-time. Okay, so a massive object curved space and time. So that if you can still remember with the discussion in your physics. Okay, so the without parallel axiom. Okay, as what I mentioned, the prominent application for this is the Einstein curved space-time. Okay, so gravity is geometric curvature, not a force. That's for the general relativity. Okay, so this would be uh, this supports the Hilbert's axiom supports the Euclid's fifth postulates. However, in the uh, Hilbert, it's not just only it's not that very strict like in the Euclids that you can only have one parallel line, but in what do you call this one in Hilbert, at most one. Okay, so that's the Hilbert's axiom. Thank you very much.